want to talk a little bit about Liverpool. And I want to play this little clip here. I want to play this little clip.
My answer, no, definitely not. But it's always the case. I never understood. Why we constantly talk about things we theoretically cannot have. So we cannot have 6 players in a summer for everybody's 100 million, for example. Everybody would say that's okay, that's kind of clear. So, and that's the thing, you have to realize what you can do, and then you have to work with it. So how much money do we have available, and then you have to work with it, and that's the job you have to do. And it's not about, we are not children. When I ask a 5-year-old at Christmas, what do you want for Christmas? And
just for context, he's referring to Liverpool fans wanting Bellingham as being 5-year-old children at Christmas.
I tell you, I want to have, I don't know, a Ferrari.
Bellingham is the Ferrari in this analogy from Klopp.
You wouldn't say, oh, that's a good idea. You would say, no, it's too expensive, and anyway, you cannot drive it. So, and that's how it is. This kid is then the whole life unhappy because he cannot get a Ferrari. That would be a really sad life.
Says that you've got sad lives. I mean, for me, the fact that, and I'll just put this out there, Liverpool Football Club, via their media, have kicked the can down the street on Bellingham for 2 years. They keep saying, next window, next window, next window, next window. We've all seen those reports. And now he comes out and slams the disappointed Liverpool fans as being 5-year-old children that have very sad lives. For me, I'm going to throw it out to you lot, but for me, that's ridiculous.
I think it's funny that he referred to himself as not being able to drive a Ferrari.
Nah, you know what it is? If I'm being dead honest, I get the logic. He knows what he's working with. He knows he can't afford it. The biggest issue I've got in this whole transfer saga, right, is he's actively been involved in pursuing Bellingham. He's speaking about him. He's openly talking about this player. He's not once said, we're not interested in him. He hasn't gone and said, we're not linked with this player. He's made it like evidently clear, look, he's in for this player. He's wasted 2 years, 4 transfer windows, and hasn't gotten a midfielder to finally realize, oh, actually, yeah, the situation's bigger than just getting Bellingham for 100 odd million or whatever it is. We need more players. So, yeah, we're going to scrap that. And for me, that's the biggest worry. Like, this guy, man, I think he's ill. At this point, I think he's ill. He's ill. He's just, I don't, how can, and I've said it before, how can he, at the start of the season, talk about us not needing a midfielder, end up with Arthur Melo on loan? He then, let me actually backtrack. He wanted Tchouaméni in the summer, didn't get him. Ended up getting Nunes. That was the marquee signing. We needed a midfielder. He said we don't need one because we've got Chamberlain, Morton, Ox, Milner, Henderson, Curtis Jones, Elliott. Wow, who else are we going to get? Who's better than these players? That's what he said to us, right?
Morton?
No, he said that. He said that.
Who the hell is Morton?
He's at Blackburn on loan, having a torrid time. But yeah, he's then decided, you know what? Actually, we need a midfielder because Henderson got injured. So got in Arthur Melo, who's played 20 minutes, and that's all we've seen.
And shook Pep's hand as well, yeah.
Oh, and shook Pep's hand as well like 2 weeks ago. He then went into January, was offered a couple of midfielders and said, actually, no, I'm going to get Gakpo instead. And has mortgaged 2 seasons now on this youth, and his bread has not come into Liverpool. Personally, I don't even think he's worth the money, but this is just principle now. What are they doing?
That's the key word. That's the key word, principle, because if you look at it, the whole situation, it's been known that Klopp, that's his main target. He loves Jude Bellingham, and you guys have been chasing him for so long. Season after season, we keep hearing, Jude linked to Liverpool, right? But then now he's insulting your intelligence because he's giving your fan base that hope that, yeah, you are going to go in for him. But now it's like, oh, Dortmund want this much. We can't afford that. But then you should have said that in the first place. They knew. Surely they knew how much Dortmund would ask for.
Guess what? The key point is he hasn't said we can't afford it. He said, "Oh, we can't go and buy 6 players." So what's happened is that after the Man City game, when he's dropped Virgil and Salah and everyone, he's realised, it's not just Bellingham and one other midfielder that we need. we're going to need competition for Salah. We need to go centre back because Virgil's flopping. We need to fix the door. We need to fix the leaking roof. We need to fix the floorboards in the bathroom. I can't just go and buy this plasma TV. That's got to come later. So we've got the money, but he's known the money we've had. It's not like FSG have come out and just pulled the rug under him and said, you know what, the money's not available anymore. He's had the same amount of money available this whole time. He's just allocated that money to Bellingham and is now backtracked because he doesn't want him.
And you know what's crazy? I understand the people defending him saying, but you can get 2 or 3 players for that amount. I get that. But it's the kick in the can. The next window is going to be the big one. And equally, he doesn't need to say what he said about the fans today. He can turn around and go, I know fans are desperate for one of the best young midfielders in the world. We will do everything in our power to get him. And if we don't get him, we'll bring you in else something that was going to be equally as impactful. There's a way of answering that isn't throwing your toys out with your pram. And I think it's very disrespectful for the manager to talk about his supporters as being little kids, like 5-year-old kids who have sad lives. Because you lot, since you got your new Nike deal, and this was before lockdown, because I remember doing a video about it at my old banking job. I remember sitting in one of the breakout areas, and I recorded a video on it. I remember it very vividly. And a guy super chatted saying, brother, he said, Terry, we're going to get 25% of all Liverpool branded Nike merchandise. We're going to have more money than anybody in the Premier League. That was that was around January 2020. And that money was meant to come in by the summer. Now, I kind of get that COVID happened, but COVID happens to everybody. So the market shrinks with it. It wasn't like only one club got impacted by it and nobody else. The whole industry, including the TV industries, everybody got hurt by it and the money dropped. Liverpool's revenues are growing. We're about to see even more money come into football with, I think what the Premier League are going to do is start their own streaming service, their own version of Netflix, which will be cheaper for us, £10-12 a month. They'll earn even more billions, which means even more revenue is going to go out. The players' numbers are going to grow even higher. I don't think it's not that he's 100% wrong in what he's saying. I think that money does need to go elsewhere. He should have spent bigger money sooner. Now you've got all these massive holes to fill because they've allowed the squad to age out. And he's attacking fans for being disappointed. That's the bit. That's the bit for me that don't sit right.
Do you know the other bit that I think people aren't speaking on enough? Right, is it's not the fact that if you don't spend 140 on Bellingham, you've then got more money on the transfers. The fact is, that Mount they might get for quite a nice price because I think he's got a year left on his contract. But we know Mount wants 300k a week, right? McAllister, if they want,
that's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Sorry, what's
how much do you want?
It's not about the money. It's the fact that we offered him an 8-year contract apparently. So
this wasn't Chelsea signed, bro. This wasn't Chelsea.
Okay. Fair.
What I'm saying is that people are talking about the transfer fee, but what you need to remember is even if they're shrewd with transfer fees, the wages. If you want 3 midfielders, right now, the wages are going to be mental, right? McAllister. Knowing what Enzo's on, knowing what Alvarez has just signed a new deal, he's going to want any player coming to the Premier League wage-wise, that is going to impact Liverpool massively as well. And I don't think they want that as well.
And this is the problem that Liverpool are in right now, So let's just say, for argument's sake, Liverpool want to go in and get Caicedo, right? We're not the only suitors for Caicedo. So what happens? They don't want to get in a bidding war, hence they've pulled out of the Jude Bellingham deal. What happens when they put that £70 million bid for Caicedo, as an example, and Chelsea come in and go, actually, no, 80. Or Arsenal go and be like, no, 90 again. Then what? Then we're going to back off. If they're going for Rice, we're not the only suitors for Rice. And the thing is, we're not only competing against City and some other players for these, City and some of the top teams for these players. Newcastle, if they get top 4, we're fishing in the same pool.
Bruv, what you pulled on there is bang on. And I call fans out of certain clubs for a long time for this. Celebrating not overspending or not getting into bidding wars is short-termism, because eventually what happens is you miss out on the quality, and in 2 or 3 seasons' time, it bites you in the arse. Spurs did it a lot. Arsenal back in their heyday did it. Wenger we're not paying those wages. We're not paying that transfer. Look at all the players, even youngsters, they missed out on, Ronaldo's and Yaya's and Zlatan's, because they didn't want to pay the premiums. It was like, no, we're not doing that. We'll do it our way. You fast forward 5 years, you're in trouble. Liverpool, exactly the same.
When a player stays at your club for 10 years, and the amount of players that have come to City that people, when we bought them, De Bruyne, Silva, Yaya, even Grealish now, that all of a sudden in 2 more years' time, if Grealish stays with us, all of a sudden people can go, actually, for a midfielder, that wasn't as much. That if you're getting 10 years out of a player.
One thing I would say though is that if I wouldn't, even if we got Bellingham, it's out the principle kind of situation. Like the principles why I'd want him. I don't think he's worth that amount of money. Let me break it down to you. What does he do? What does he do at an elite level that you go and look at and be like, you know what, that's 150 million pound worth of a player? Does he change games with goals and assists? No. Does he conduct the game the same way?
Look how young he is, though.
Bro, he's 19 years old.
No, he's young. But I've seen Pedri dictate a game. I've seen Camavinga dictate a game against us. I'm saying he's a box-to-box player. Amazing addition. There's some intangibles he's got. He's a good player. I'm not taking that away from him. But 150 million pound for a player that's not going to be like a Steven Gerrard, that's going to be winning you games.
You know what though, JJ? The thing is though, JJ, the difference is it's like with me and you. If me and you were both footballers, you'd be worth more money than me because you're much better looking. You've got more. You know, I'm being a little. Yeah.
Is that what we're looking at when we're judging players? Like
Egal. Partly, yes.
Branding is important. Branding is important.
Commercial value. Jack Wilshere is an example. Part of his value is that he's a very attractive man. If David
Grealish, you mean
Jack
Grealish?
Grealish, right? If Jack Grealish or David if Jackie Grealish or David Beckham looked like Luke Chadwick, they wouldn't be worth as much money. By the way, if Wayne Rooney was an absolute, if he looked like Brad Pitt, he would have got paid even more. He'd have been valued at even more because there's a different level of appeal to a man like that. So Jude Bellingham has got age, he's got looks, he's also English, which means his commercial value in England is sky high because of the image rights that you own. You know, Ronaldo, and that's the thing for me when it comes to the value of these players. The more famous they are, and the fame is connected to commerciality, their looks, and everything else. That plays such a big part. I get what you're saying. On football,
the problem is, Terry, we're not in the same position that City were when they made that deal for Grealish, when it's about the homegrown quota. Who can we get? And on top of that, Grealish at his pomp can be a game winner in terms of the position he plays in, right? But if we're looking at marketability, City were a solid team and they added that component into it. If Bellingham was to come to Liverpool, Bellingham has to be Gerrard, Lampard, De Bruyne fused into everything. He's got to be defending. He's got to be scoring winning goals, because if he isn't...
Can I ask you a question, though? This is one thing I would say, though, and you are buying potential, and that's always a premium. When KDB was 19, no one thought he was going to be this good. Sure. Bellingham's got so much room to improve. The problem is you pay for it. Now, if you look at the inflation of money in football since 2004, and I use that as a barometer because that's when Wayne Rooney was sold for £27 million. If you put Wayne Rooney's value into today's money, he's a £180 million player. So Jude Bellingham, again, he was scoring goals, but he was a striker, so you would expect him to. But Rooney wasn't scoring 25, 30 goals a season when we bought him. He was scoring 10, 12, 13, but it was that raw potential of what he could become.
And Terry, when you're looking again, but Terry, that's a player that's a game. You're looking at a player that's proven he's a game winner. That's the difference. When you're looking at these players for 150, 200 million, for me, there needs to be some sort of ability that's like, you know what, that's the game changer.
Is Enzo Fernandez too much then?
Is Enzo Fernandez overpriced?
Enzo was worth the price because in this market, the only player that I would say is quite similar to him is De Jong. Apart from that, you're not really finding anyone at that level what he can do, what he's done for our midfield already. So Enzo's worth the price because of how niche that key is, that ability that he's got.
But even Enzo, I've seen Enzo come into and he's conducting against Liverpool as an example. Look how well he conducted that game.
That's what I'm saying.
Not hard, really.
Let me jump on this.
It's not hard. But
let me jump on this. First of all, Klopp lost his charisma and like he's moving mad in press conferences for months now. I don't think Liverpool fans are watching his press conferences as much as they used to back in the day because I feel like he's lost a little bit of that. So I'm not surprised that he would lash out at his fans or even journalists at this point. So that's besides the point. But when it comes to Jude Bellingham, I agree with you, bro, to a certain degree. Is Jude Bellingham going to solve all your problems? No, he's not. Is Jude Bellingham a quality player? And if you bought him, you'd be happy 100%. But he's not the player you need right now. What you need is to solve a bunch of your different problem areas and use your transfer budget wisely and try to get as many targets and fill that area with quality players that can come in and win now. Like a Paulinho. If you sign a Paulinho instead of a Caicedo and you go and get a McAllister instead of Caicedo, now you have two players probably cost you around the same money as Jude Bellingham, and then you can go address the other key areas and spend your money wisely. I think Liverpool, what they did to get to the top is not what you need to stay at the top, but they need to go back to that a little bit to try to get back again to a team that can compete on all fronts.
I've seen a lot of people in the comments moving mad about the Enzo comment. I don't agree with how much we paid for Enzo, right? I don't agree with the mark with that price that Benfica set for him. But we're not living in a time where you're gonna pay for the player's market value. It's inflation time these days, and Enzo's an important player for Benfica. They could see that we're desperate. He's so niche right now. A player like Enzo is so niche that you've got to pay what they're asking for. Unfortunately, these days, for me, I would say he's probably worth 50 million max. I would pay for him market value wise. But in terms of what the times that we're living in right now, if they're asking for that and you need that player, unfortunately, you have to pay.
But this is the thing. But this is my problem. I've been doing the YouTube thing a little longer than most of you, so I've seen this happen 3 times now. When the barriers for players changes, 50 millions and 80 millions, now 100 plus millions. Every time, everybody says they're not worth that. At the same time, they're all willing to go from paying £30 for a shirt to £120 for a shirt. You know, £700 for a season ticket to £3,000 for a season ticket. TV money goes up, or there's multiple subscriptions needed. Fans like pay more for football and then get angry that things within football cost more money. For me, it's nonsensical. Yeah. And when the Premier League deal money comes in, if they launch their own, say they don't launch their own channel, and a new TV deal money comes in, and it's an extra £2 billion a year spread between the 20 clubs. The first instance transfer valuation of all players across the world goes up for Premier League clubs. So I just think we should be past moaning about how much players cost.
You know what?
And Terry, we don't even, as Chelsea fans,
the money in football.
No one. I haven't seen a single Chelsea fan mention Enzo's price tag at all since he's been here, because he's just come in and been a change in our midfield.
Your fans, it's rivals. It's rivals.
It's rivals.
Yeah, no, what? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Rivals. We don't talk about it.
Wait, you do talk about it because you talk about. We do talk about it, and you guys do too talk about it also, because you talk about the money spent totality. So his price is included in that.
So I was just going to say on Pogba, he's the perfect example that people knocked how much Man United spent on Pogba, but I think within about 3 months we saw how much Pogba had generated Manchester United, right? And that ultimately a board will not, like, these boards won't spend money without looking at how much money is going to be generated. Like, so I think look, when I was young, it never got spoke on. The amount teams paid for players and all of that, it was very rarely spoke on. It's a new thing. And I get the amount's gone up, but boards will not spend it if they don't think they're going to make the money back. So.
And that's what I'm saying is that, look, if Liverpool are buying Mbappe for 200, 300 million, I understand that. Not only about the marketability, but in terms of what he's going to provide in the pitch, you can measure, there's tangible evidence. Does he get the goal? Does he win you the games? With Bellingham, the type of player he is, he scored a lot of goals in the Champions League, but in his career, he doesn't get loads of assists. He don't score loads of goals. He don't get on the ball and conduct play. He retains ball. He's a talented player, but and he's young, but is he that difference maker? And when we're in Liverpool, the amount of money we're going to be spending on him, we need the same impact that Virgil had up when he came to our team. We need the same impact that Alisson had when he came to our team. And I don't believe he's going to have that.
See, I want him at Man United. I think, look, I'd love him at Man United. I know we need more. If we get that Qatar oil money, firstly, I can't wait to rub myself up in oil live on air. That'd be fun. but I'd love him at the club. I think he'll be a tremendous player. But I get Liverpool fans' point that we need more than him now. However, it still doesn't excuse we get away from the point Klopp calling you man like spoilt kids for being upset about it. And I think Liverpool fans should be annoyed that you've got into this situation.